This podcast and content posted by Dr. Judith Joseph is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast or website is at the user's own risk. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional diagnoses or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical or mental health condition they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Hello, I'm so grateful that you chose to listen to this podcast. I'm Dr. Judith, a board-certified psychiatrist and researcher. And on this podcast, you will hear from world-renowned experts. At the end of every single podcast of The Vault, every expert talks about a time in their lives when they were struggling and no one knew it. And they talk about what they used to get through that struggle. So make sure you listen through till the end and you subscribe and share with a friend. Have you ever noticed that when you're stressed, your skin and your hair just don't look that great? Well, Dr. Jeanine Downie is a board-certified dermatologist who specializes in skincare. And she joined me on The Vault to talk about how when you're stressed and your mental health isn't intact, your skin and hair can break down. She's also one of the very few Black dermatologists, and we celebrated her during August, Black Entrepreneurship Month, because she has a successful and thriving practice where she treats people with the cutting edge research in dermatological sciences. Dr. Downie discussed perimenopause and menopause and how hormonal fluctuations can show up on your skin.
Infrared, which is heat. Getting in a hot car in the summer, you're like, oh my God, is this damaging my skin? Cooking hot pasta. I remember I had like a pizza chef come in one time that bought this pizza restaurant and his face was really bad with the rosacea. He's like, it's just gotten so much worse. I'm like, it's all that infrared heat. He was like, what, huh? Nobody ever told me this. That type of thing. So you need the broad spectrum sunblocks that do UVA, UVB, anti-blue light, and anti-infrared. So
we also talked about the challenges of being a Black entrepreneur these days and how we have to navigate microaggressions in order to find success. We talked about how Black entrepreneurs can take care of their mental health so that they can continue to thrive. Dr. Downie can be seen on national television appearances. She's an expert at research conferences, and she travels the world learning about the cutting edge research in beauty. You won't want to miss this episode of The Vault. Dr. Downie, thank you for coming to The Vault.
Thank you for having me. This is really exciting, and it's such an interesting space with an interesting history, and it's wonderful to be here with you, Dr. Judith.
Well, you are a treasure. You are a Caribbean American treasure. So we had to bring you to The Vault, a place of mental wealth, and celebrate you because I've been following you for years. And we met last year at an event at Loopwell.
Right.
And you know how you feel like you know someone when you've never met them? I was like, oh, I know you. Hey, how are you?
I know. I was like, she's coming to Montclair. I'm like, I'm ending patients early. I must get there. I must meet this woman. Because I also have been following you on social media for years. And I think you're fantastic. I'm totally in awe of you and all your White House stuff and all your accomplishments in this book. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. Really, the pleasure, the honor is mine. So let's jump right into it.
Sure.
You're someone who looks so refreshed all the time. And I follow your travels. And we were chatting earlier about how you were like just in Dubai, you were in the Seychelles, you were in Orlando, you're all over the place, but you still look radiant. So let's jump into your skincare routine. What is your daily must-have skincare product for your skincare routine?
I love it. Okay. So I'm a big sunblock person. So I tell people, rain or shine, January through December, regardless of your ethnicity, you've got to put the sunblock on SPF of 30 or above and reapply it every single day. And that's all there is to it. So I like the Zoe. It's a broad spectrum SPF of 50, the ZO product, and it rubs right into all skin types. It's more of a sports sunblock. So I can even get a lot of my male patients to wear it. And it's really effective because it's UVA, UVB, and it protects against HIVL. You're like, huh? High energy visible light. That's the blue light from your phone, your computer, your Apple Watch, your iPad, this light that we have in the vault, the visible light you have in your offices, and even your TV is HIVL. And so the blue light protection in the over-the-counter sunscreens is not, it's insignificant or not there at all. So the Zoe has a lot of blue light protection, so you don't get as much weathering, so you don't age as fast, quite frankly. And then the Zoe sunblock also has infrared, which is heat. Getting in a hot car in the summer, you're like, oh my God, is this damaging my skin? Cooking hot pasta. I remember I had like a pizza chef come in one time that bought this pizza restaurant, and his face was really bad with the rosacea. He's like, it's just gotten so much worse. I'm like, it's all that infrared heat. He was like, what, huh? Nobody ever told me this. That type of thing. So you need the broad spectrum sunblocks that do UVA, UVB, anti-blue light, and anti-infrared. So ZO is one of them, Total Defense and Repair, which I also swear by Skin Medica. That's another one. And so that's my foundation. From there, if you think of your skin, reservoir, the extracellular matrix, not to get too sciencey, think of it as like your skin's cushion that kind of has the collagen and elastin inside of it. As we start to get older, our collagen and elastin starts to deplete, just generalized aging and skin cell, kind of senescence or death type of thing. So we don't want death, we want life. So what I recommend is growth factor products that really help to, when you put them on your face, build collagen, build elastin, decrease fine lines, decrease wrinkles. So Skin Medic has a product called TNS Advanced Plus. That is thebomb.com that I put on every single night on my face and my neck and the backs of my hands. And then ZO, the other brand that I was telling you about, has a growth factor product that I put on top of that because I'm greedy and I want more growth factor. And then I have underlying eczema, Dr. Judith, so I can't use retinoids as much as I'd like to. But Melatonics by Isden, it's a Spanish company. They have a product, it's Melatonic, I believe it is. Shame on me, I have it right at home on my bureau. And that one is a retinoid, but it's a serum in oil, so it doesn't really dry you out. Okay. So even my patients that are dry, 50s, perimenopausal, menopausal, they can still use it, but I limit it to like 3 times a week. And that also builds collagen and elastin.
So that's so interesting because you listed all these products, and I have melasma. I have a lot of the pigmentation issues, the dry issues. I can't tolerate retinol. So it's interesting because I went to medical school and I try to keep up with the literature, but I'm learning about things and products that I've never heard of. And I know that you travel a lot to conferences. You're constantly learning. You're constantly being curious. So, for people who are listening, if your doctor isn't traveling, if they're not learning at conferences, you don't have the up-to-date technology, you don't have the up-to-date products, you don't have the up-to-date tools to make your skin glow. So Dr. Downie is not just a dermatologist and an educator and an on-air media personality. She is actually out there learning the new skills, the new tools that you need to keep looking bright and shining. And, I've learned so much about you today. We were talking earlier about how you come from a long line of Black professionals in healthcare. You have a grandfather who was one of the first Black dentists in Harlem, and your mother is the first Black medical school graduate.
From New Jersey.
Black woman graduate from a New Jersey medical school in New Jersey, in a whole state. So, I work with a lot of professionals who are high functioning. And, appearances, it's not about vanity. It's about feeling confident. Right. And if you're stressed because, you're in an environment where you're the only person that looks like you, and, you're the first to do a lot of things, that shows up on your skin, right? So tell us about that and about your family's legacy.
Then I have underlying melasma. I'm an ex-lifeguard, ex-swim instructor, ex-swim champ. And so way too much time in the Jamaican sun growing up, like I was sharing with you, and way too much time in the New Jersey sun. So I started getting melasma from the time I was like 17, which is very unusual. Wow. So melasma, for your listeners, is irregular dark patches all over your face that look like somebody spilled tea on your face. And it's not nice. And the whole light reflectivity thing, as you look at a beautiful man or a beautiful woman, the way the light hits your skin and reflects off your skin, and the skin quality and the skin reflectance makes you look youthful and beautiful, or it can make you look dull and older. And so with melasma, I started using products to help me with pigmentation, like sunscreen all the time from the time of an early age. And then I started using different creams that were safe for when I would run in the sun, because I run outside all the time. That's one of my favorite exercises and activities. And if you'd like, we can get into that. But when the sun hits my skin, regardless, I'll have 3 coats of sunblock on and I can still get patches of melasma. So I'll use something called Cyspera that is safe. It's cysteamine derived. It smells like rotten eggs, but it's, topical for home use. You put your hair up so it doesn't get in your hair, and you put it on like 15 minutes every other night, and it fades out the patches very nicely, and it's not hydroquinone. So therefore, you don't have to take breaks from the Cyspera. It works really, really well. But people don't know how to use it. And so therefore, they're like, oh, this doesn't work. I'm like, that's not true. You just haven't used it under my supervision before. And this is something you can use for your face, your body, even under your arms, even your private parts type of thing. So it's it's just a topical cream, but it really helps. So I use the Cyspera some. There's a product from Obagi called vitamin C hydroquinone, and I'll use that on a limited basis. Then I cycle off, then I cycle back on. And then Skin Medica has a product called Even and Correct that I'll use that has topical tranexamic acid in it. So there's different ways of making sure that as you start to get older, your skin stays glowing and your skin stays even. When people walk into my office, they're like, I want my glow back. You know what I'm saying? And like, yes, they're there for Botox, they're there for filler, they're there for skin tightening or laser, but they all want to glow. And so, I explain to them that they have to do good skincare. You wouldn't really just do one sit-up and think you're going to have a flat stomach for the rest of your life. You wouldn't do one push-up and think you're going to have an awesome upper body. So why are you going to do skincare for 2 weeks and then say, oh, this didn't work? It's ridiculous. So you really have to, I try to get my patients to invest in themselves. I named my practice Image Dermatology because when I was growing up, I had bad acne and bad eczema, and I was concerned about my own self-image and my own mental health. The very professional parents. My mother's the first Black female that graduated from med school in the state of New Jersey. Wow. Her dad, my grandfather was a dentist back in the roaring days of Harlem. So lots of stress and pressure, and you do well, and you have to represent your people, and you have to do this, and everything has to be perfect, that type of thing. So a lot of stress and pressure, and of course, bad acne, bad eczema, that wasn't perfect. So the A's were there, but the face wasn't there. So I named the practice Image Dermatology because I wanted to help my patients with their self-image. And then there's a very thin line, in my opinion, between dermatology and psychiatry. So when I was in undergraduate, I kind of on and off wanted to be a dermatologist because I was in my dermatologist's office so much for different things growing up. But I decided I was going to major in biology and psychology because I wanted to understand why people do what they do. And the kind of like nurturing mother aspect of what I do in my practice with my cosmetic patients, quite frankly, they tell me is one of the reasons I'm so popular. They like what I do with the anti-aging, but they also like the advice.
There's a lot of connections between skin and mental health, like you just brought up. And there's a whole field called psychodermatology. Tell us about what are the common things that you see in your practice where what you're experiencing on the inside, although you're trying to mask it, your skin cannot mask it. It's happening. Your skin, your hair, your nails, they are feeling what you are experiencing psychologically. Tell us about some of the things that you see.
Okay. So for example, one of my patients came in to see me, Latina, educated, works in the New York transit system. And her boss, Caucasian female, asked her, hey, is that dirt on your face? And of course, she's washing her face. This is an educated woman who's an engineer with a high-powered job. Of course, she's washing her face. But even if she wasn't, do we speak to other people like that? I think not. So there's that as well. So she had the patches of darkness on her face called melasma, and she came in and she was just so depressed, and it was messing with her confidence. It was messing with her health. She felt like her work performance wasn't as good, all of it. And so I told her, I said, you need to, see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist, but you need to get mental help immediately because she was just so depressed. And then I started doing chemical peels and going over different products with her. There's another product that I didn't mention before called Senti for sensitive skin that evens out the skin tone that really works well, that's created by a scientist, that's skin of color for everybody, but particularly for skin of color that works so well. So with the Senti and the chemical peels and the infusion of, put your back up straight and go do your business and don't let this woman let you down type of thing, I got her off of soy. And that was critical. Soy has an estrogenic component to it, and it can be the devil for so many different things. It can flare acne, it can flare eczema, it can make people that are, perimenopausal and sweating sweat a whole lot more. So soy avoidance for her was critical. And she wound up doing so much better within 4 months, and she could not believe that she did not have to wear thick pancake makeup to work anymore. Her back was straighter. She was going to the therapist. she started doing really well in her job performance. She got a mentor from a different department. I advised her to do that. And she's now more senior than the woman that was criticizing her.
Wow.
Yay. Like
that's
that.
a great case.
And then there's an African-American woman that came to see me. And she just said to me that she saw me on, I forget which show. And she said that I looked so friendly and that she roughly thought we were about the same age. And why does she look so angry? And she had a line right here. But a lot of times with men, if they have a line in the middle of their face, Dr. Judith, they're thought of as they're intense or they're hard driving or they're in charge, right?
Yes.
Whereas a woman, a Black woman, she's already like 5'11", right? So she's already the foreboding presence. This line indicated that she was angry, that she was mean, that she was wicked, and so and people treated her badly at her job. And she had a degree from Harvard and a degree from Columbia, and she had all the great credentials, but she wasn't rising up at work and she wasn't doing what she wanted to do. And one of the Caucasian secretaries said, "You just look so unfriendly all the time. Nobody even wants to speak to you." And so she came in to see me, just like make me look more friendly. And I was like, "Well, you need to do Botox." And she's like, "I don't want to do that." And I said, "Yes, you do. You just don't know it yet." So I gave her some, that's my first idea. You just don't know it yet.
That's
so
like a meme, right?
Yes, you do. You just don't know it yet. So I gave her some products and we talked about Botox. We talked about some laser. And we talked about literally making her, just smile more. And, she's like, "What do you mean? I'm not just going to artificially smile in the middle of talking to somebody about something." And I said, "You're 6 feet tall. You look intimidating. You have all these Ivy League degrees that half your colleagues don't have. That's also intimidating to them." I said, "I'm all for your tallness. I wish I was taller. I'm all for the 2 degrees you have. Those are fabulous schools. I'm in your corner. I'm telling you what to do." And she also slumped. That the slumping is not good. I don't care how tall or short you are. You must stand up straight because you just look you look more squared off and just vibrant.
Yes.
So
and
I started,
open.
exactly.
Open.
And I started poking her in her back because I'm mean, like that's the West Indian thing. I was poking her in her back, making her stand up straight. Did convince her to do the Botox. I had her use. She has really thick hair, and I had her use Latisse because she's rubbing her eyes all the time. And I told her, the dark circles under eyes. That was the other thing. I told her, if you rub your eyes like you're scrubbing a pot, your eyes will look like a pot. And so she thinks I'm mean, but it's a real thing.
Yes.
And my patients throughout the years, I tell them this. It's the kind of psycho, traumatic, taking your stress out on your eyes thing. It's the thinnest skin of the body. It shows the aging first. Are you kidding me? So the dark circles, we Botoxed her. I got the dark circles back under control, grew the beautiful eyelashes out with Latisse. Promotion this, promotion that. I asked for a percentage of her promotions and she told me no.
A lot of busy people do that. I talk to my patients who are high functioning and I'm like, when you were growing up, how did your mom comb your hair? And they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't even think about that anymore. That like hair trauma where you have a busy mom who's overworked, brushing your hair quick." And I was like, "How do you comb your hair?" And they're like, "I comb it the same way." Or how did your mom after your bath? How did they rub you down with like the Vaseline or the cream? They're like, "It was always slathering." And how do you do it? I do it too. Like slather. I'm like, slow down. Try this for a week. Take the lotion or the Vaseline, whatever it is, because, we like to be moisturized.
We have to be hydrated.
Yes. And we don't like to be ashy. And slowly rub it in. And, when you comb your hair, gently do that. And I want you, while you're doing that, to tell yourself internally or verbally, "I am worthy of love and care and feeling gentle and being treated tenderly," and using gentle, caressing movements. Do that for a week. And you know what? They tell me like, "Wow, it helped me to slow down. It helped me to feel more loved and more worthy." And people treat you better when you're gentle with yourself, when you revere yourself. You project that out into the world and people treat you better.
Right.
But if you're rushing and you're poking and you're doing all, they're going to get a sense that, well, you don't care about yourself. Well, why should I care about you?
Right. You're teaching them mindfulness.
Yes. You're teaching yourself mindfulness. Yes. But you're also teaching yourself self-worth. So when you're touching yourself lovingly and you're sending that message that I am worthy of love, that's releasing oxytocin, which is a love hormone, which is an attachment hormone. So you're basically telling your inner brain that you are worthy. So slow down. Don't rub your eye.
I agree.
Don't tug on your hair.
Right.
That's stress for your hair and your body.
Right.
One of the things that I always ask my expert to come to the vault is to tell me about a time in their lives when they were struggling on the inside. No one knew it because on the outside, they were so put together, everything looked great. And how did they get through it?
So that would go back to my high school days growing up and going to Teaneck High School. I had really bad acne, really bad eczema. I was slightly overweight. My hair was broken off due to too much of the coarse combing and not knowing how to take care of my hair and that type of thing. But I was getting, A's in all of my AP classes, and I was in the dance group, and I was in the track team, and I was on the swim team and the diving team, and basically on the pathway to get to a very excellent college. And so everybody thought everything was coming up roses for me. My family is professional. My mom, as I said, was a physician. Is a pediatrician. She still practices. She's 90. That's ridiculous.
Wow.
She should take a break. And my dad was insurance at Prudential. And so we loved to travel. So we'd be going to different places in the world together as a family, and everything looked great. So that was the outside. But on the inside, my parents fought a lot. They ultimately wound up getting divorced. We're a very Catholic family. And so my mother's like, Catholics don't get divorced. And I'm like, these Catholics should get divorced. I'm just saying, but you do what you want, that type of thing. Yes. And so it was just like the struggles of my family, the look from the outside and the look from the inside. And so the acne was severe, the eczema was severe, and people treated me differently with the acne and the eczema and the weight on. Wow. And it's very, very interesting. They kind of treat you and then you're not loving yourself in those moments. And so people treated me differently. And it was just a bit appalling for me. And you have to, in my opinion, as a human being trying to center on earth with other people, you have to watch how you speak to people. Yes. And you have to watch how you treat people at all times. It doesn't matter if you got no sleep. It's not the person who's giving you coffee the next morning. It's not their fault, right? That you got no sleep the night before. That's your own doggone fault, that type of thing. But there was a way that people spoke to me and treated me and disrespected me that I thought was fascinating in a bad way. And then that was that time in high school. And then around my late 20s, my parents did get divorced, and they needed to get divorced, quite frankly. And they dragged me into all their issues. One of my brothers was at Brown University in college, and the other one was chasing some woman in Paris. And I was in the city. I was at Cornell. I was an intern in pediatrics before I switched into dermatology. And I gained 45 pounds. And the way people treated me was fascinating. And then I went to Weight Watchers, and I swear by Weight Watchers, and I lost the weight, and I run about 25 miles or so a week. Now I spin more because I'm starting to have knee issues as I get older. So I spin more now. I do a lot of Peloton. But I tell my patients all the time, if you feel that you have the self-worth and the wherewithal to lose the weight, then please do. And if you don't, I have a ton of my patients jump on the GLP-1s, and they really help to have them lose weight. And as you lose weight, sometimes you lose some friendships. It was very interesting as I lost the weight, because people wanted me in the chubby box. They didn't want me in the box that I came into Cornell, the slim box that I came in. They wanted to be in the chubby box because they wanted to be able to subjugate a little bit.
Goodness.
And so all those reasons are why I named my practice Image Dermatology, so I could help people with their self-image. And I tell my patients now, this is not cheating using the GLP-1s. No. This is not cheating going to Weight Watchers. This is not cheating saying you need help. A lot of women in particular, men as well, one of the reasons they gain so much weight is because they're psychologically traumatized and they're dealing with issues. Some of them are deep-seated from their past that they don't even realize, And so they come to see me. One of my patients lost 87 pounds since I saw her last. Incredible. And she said that she's being treated totally differently. And she was, a little kind of thought that might happen and a little appalled. And I mentioned it at my big American Academy of Dermatology meeting, that because I showed pictures of what was happening with her face at the meeting, with her permission, of course. And the room was silent for a minute when I was talking about how she's treated so much better. And in our society, people can be terrible. Yes, and you have to know your own self-worth. And so I'm there to infuse self-worth and self-value into each and every one of my patients, both males and females. And I see maybe more like probably 65, 70% females and maybe 30% males in my practice. And I do, like I said, mostly cosmetic. I'm like try to be the anti-aging guru for them. The only thing I don't practice, I exercise, I over-exercise. I do 7 days a week. I just don't get as much sleep as I should.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that vulnerable story. I think it's going to empower a lot of people, and people don't think of divorce trauma as a trauma, but it is. It's actually listed in the ACEs, which is the childhood, questionnaire for trauma. What are some of the things that you're seeing in Black women in terms of their hair loss, and what are some of the treatments?
Talk to them about their hair health. A lot of Black women will come in and they have the central, the central centrifugal cicatricial alopecia, CCCA. That's related to a lot of psychological issues because they start thinning and balding and thinning, and then it's getting bigger. And if you catch it early, you can really, really help them with some really great products that I have like a cocktail of what I do for hair loss for both men and women. And then I actually bought a machine for hair growth. I bought it for me. I bought it so I could use it for my own hair, but then I let my patients use it so I can make money off of it. It's called the Carolace. So I have a whole cocktail for when people come in to see me.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
A lot of people are using the GLP-1 to manage their weight and to take care of their metabolic states. What are some of the things that they can do if they're experiencing skin changes or hair changes related to using those really necessary products?
Absolutely. So I encourage them to come in for a consult. We take photographs of their face. I have a big screen. We put up the photographs. We analyze them from every angle. And a lot of people don't realize they need filler to start picking up their face again. So I do Voluma, I do Sculptra, but different fillers. And then their jawline is sagging here. So something called Introgen, which is a radio frequency device, which tightens you right up. I use it on myself all the time. And there's something else called Zafiro, Zaffiro, and that can be used on the face, the neck, and the body. And those are skin tightening things. And then in terms of the hair health, I recommend Nutrafol, Definage, something called Lambdaptal, possibly the Carolace hair laser. But we analyze and we go through what they want to spend, what they want to do, and what their priorities are.
If people are in perimenopause and menopause, what can they do on a daily basis to make sure that their skin and hair are staying healthy as their body goes through these hormonal fluctuations?
Perimenopause and menopause, many things. Number one, they've got to exercise 4 to 5 times a week. They've got to try to go to bed earlier so they can sleep longer, because in the middle of the night, if they're sweating, they'll wake up. So they should probably limit their water intake, unfortunately, after 8 p.m. so they don't have to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night a lot. I tell my perimenopausal patients to avoid soy significantly. I tell them they have to use more sunscreen because their skin is more sensitive to the sun. When they're going through perimenopause and their skin is thinning. And then in terms of their hair health, they can't over diet, they can't over perm it, they can't over straighten it, none of that. They just do the bare minimum of what you want to do, except for deep conditioning and the good stuff. But any of the quote unquote bad stuff needs to be limited, because your hair and your nails can get much more brittle during perimenopause and menopause. And it's the simple things: sleeping with a satin bonnet, not scratching at your scalp, not picking at your skin, because all of those things can cause more trauma.
Where can we find you, and where can we follow you and keep up with all of the incredible things that you're doing?
So you can find me at Jeanine Downie. So it's JeaninDownie. So that's my Instagram handle. My website is imagedermatology.com, and I'm in Montclair, New Jersey. And I'm on Facebook through, I think it's Dr. Jeanine Downie on Facebook. For some reason, it's different. But those are the main places. And thank you so much for having me on. This is an absolute honor and privilege for me.
Thank you. It was my pleasure and my honor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Make sure that you subscribe. When you subscribe, it helps me to continue to deliver this mental health information for free to millions of listeners. So please support my mission. Please pick up my book, High Functioning, and let's build a happier life together.